Ooh. Today, we're working in the New Headway Intermediate book. We are talking about our dream jobs. Now, Mr. Paul, what is your dream job?
Hypnotherapist.
Well, close your eyes and think about it. You're getting sleepy. Very sleepy. Now, thinking about your hypnotherapist job, does it require a lot of qualifications?
No, it doesn't.
Does it require a lot of training?
Well, it does require some training, yeah, but not a lot.
Is it well paid?
It is, yeah.
Does it involve working with other people?
Yes, it does.
Is it inside or outside?
Inside.
Do you need to be physically strong to do it?
Not physically strong, no.
Is it dangerous?
It's not dangerous, no.
Does it involve travel?
It could, if you were to travel to clients' places of work or residence.
Here are the stories of two people who have found their dream jobs. We have a Stanley Karras and a Michael Doyle. Interesting. So, we are going to read these looking for the exact meaning of Hurricane Hunter and Cowboy in the Sky. We want to know which of the jobs seems interesting to us, and we want to think about whether we would like to do either of them. So, here we have Stanley Karras, Hurricane Hunter. What does he say here, Mr. Paul?
He says, there's no such thing as an average day in my job.
Right, very good. He works as a meteorologist in Tampa, Florida. It's his job to follow hurricanes by plane and provide information to them. Information about them to scientists. Mr. Paul, can you please read our first paragraph?
Yeah. How did you get the job? I was working for the National Meteorological Office in Bracknell near London in the autumn of 1999, and I saw a documentary with my family called Storm Chasers. It was about hurricane hunters, and I thought, wow, that's an interesting job. As it happened, 2 months later I came across an ad in a newspaper for a meteorologist to work in Florida with the same people who had made the documentary. I applied, was interviewed over the phone, moved to the US, and started work there in Tampa in May 2000.
Aha. Now, what is a hurricane?
I think it's a very strong wind which can actually take down trees and the tops of houses.
Very good. What is a meteorologist?
This is a person who is experienced and qualified in the research of the weather and weather forecasting. They can predict what's going to happen to our weather.
And what is a documentary?
This is a television program which is about particular, events or particular types of behaviour. I don't know how to explain it really. It's a television program about different things that happen in the world.
I would think of it as being a highly factual program.
Yeah.
That is educational in nature. Anything that's highly factual and educational.
Yeah.
That's what I would think of as a documentary. Now, what do you like to read our next paragraph?
Yes. What do you like most about it? I love the travel. Chasing hurricanes has taken me all over the world. It's exciting to end up in different cities and different countries day after day. And if you're a meteorologist, you have to love flying. I also love working with top scientists. I've learned so much from them, and we've had a lot of exciting times together. For me, it's like a classroom in the sky.
Very good, yes. What is a scientist?
A scientist is a very intelligent person who works in a laboratory and does scientific research into various aspects of life and, what can we say, physical bodies, physical matter, matter that's related to the skies. Well, I would think more on the minute microbes and stuff like that.
What is a classroom?
A classroom is a room which is for a place of study.
Okay, very good. Now we have what's an average day like? Would you like to read here?
What's an average day like? There's no such thing as an average day in my job. It all depends on the weather. And you can't control that. It's constantly changing. We often take off at a moment's notice to chase storms. I'm the one who decides whether we fly low through a storm. I don't want to take us into a hurricane that could be particularly nasty. There's a lot on my shoulders.
Aha. Now what is a storm?
A storm is very bad weather, thunder, possibly lightning, and lots of heavy rain. And sometimes hailstones, which are small particles of ice which fall from the sky.
Very good. And what am I saying if I call something nasty?
Oh, this is horrible. Not a pleasant thing.
Now we have have you made any sacrifices to do this job? Please read for us.
Yes, one big one. I'm far away from my family. They all live in the UK. My wife's with me, of course, but her family is also in the UK. So we're pretty cut off from them all over here.
And now we have, what would you like to do next?
I'd like to join a space program and be the first meteorologist in space. But I haven't come up with an experiment to do in space yet. There aren't any hurricanes.
Aha. And what is space?
What is what, sir?
Space.
Space, this is, well, if we're talking about outer space, the outer limits of the universe, beyond our world we have space, and it's usually very, very dark and cold out there. Someone told me that the sun is actually cold. It's the magnetic or the electronic rays which bounce off the sun which are actually hot. But I don't know enough about that because I'm not a scientist.
Interesting. Well, what advice would you give to someone who wanted to do your job?
Study maths and science and get a degree in meteorology. There are many areas in meteorology to study. I've taken the hurricane hunter path, but you could be a weather forecast or do research in other areas. It's a fascinating subject and the pay is pretty good.
Aha. Very, very good. We have weather forecaster. What is a weather forecaster?
A weather forecast is a person who stands in front of the television and tells you what's going to happen. But seriously though, the weather forecast, he predicts how the weather's going to be and then can pass that information on.
Yeah. Now something is fascinating. What am I saying?
It's very interesting.
Very interesting. Yes, very good. Okay. And now we have Michael Doyle, cowboy in the sky.
Were there
What is he
any,
saying?
were there any questions to answer?
The questions are about both passages, so why don't we read both,
Oh, okay.
and then we'll go through the
Do you want to do that again then, that bit?
Sure. So now we have Michael Doyle, cowboy in the sky. What is he saying?
He says, many of today's iron workers are descendants of the men who built New York's first skyscrapers.
Yes, they are. Michael Doyle is an iron worker in New York City. He is one of 100 or so iron workers currently employed by Boston Properties to erect the steel frame of a new 40 5-story building in Times Square. These iron workers are known as cowboys in the sky. Please read for us here.
How did you get the job? Ironwork is a trade that is still handed down from father to son. Many of today's ironworkers are descendants of the men who built New York's first skyscrapers. My great-grandfather was Irish. He came over from Ireland in 1930 to work on the construction of the Empire State Building. My father and grandfather were also ironworkers. My father did it for 40 years. I've never wanted to do any other job.
Aha. Very good. If I say something is a trade, what am I saying about it?
A trade would be something like a job where the person involved uses his hands.
Sure.
Like a plumber, or a bricklayer, or a carpenter, something like that.
Good. And what is a descendant?
This is... So I am descended from my grandfather and from my great-grandfather, so I am one of their descendants.
Now we have what do you like most about it? Please read for us.
Well, to me, ironworkers are the kings of construction. We make the skeleton that the other workers build on. We have real pride in our work. You look at the New York skyline and think, I helped build that. Also, we work hard. We play hard. Ironworkers have to get on well together. We depend on each other for our lives, so we can't fall out. Oh, and the pay is good.
Aha. If I say kings of construction, what would that mean?
Well, the kings, obviously, this is the person at the top. Construction, these people who build buildings or construct buildings. And so we feel that, well, I feel that we are right at the top of the tree, if you like. Because there's none higher than us, because without the iron workers, you have nothing to construct.
Okay. And now we have the word skeleton used in this context. What is he saying with the word skeleton here?
So the skeleton of the building is the frame of the building. We are the ones who put the frame into place so that the other workers can begin working on that frame. And for example, the pipe fitters and the air conditioning men. Well, first we have to go in. They can't do their job without us.
Very good. Now we have what's an average day like. Please read for us.
Well, you never stop in this job. 8 hours a day, from 7 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. You're moving all the time. The crane lifts the iron girders, and you have to catch them and move them into place. There's always danger. It's a fact of life for us.
Aha. Now, what is a crane?
A crane is a giant kind of lifting machine, and it can lift heavy weights. So if we have to lift girders, we have to do it with a crane. And the man sits in the cab of the crane at the top, and he could be 100 feet up. So it's quite a dangerous job for him. And yeah, his job is to move these 40-ton girders around. They're made of steel.
Now, what is a girder?
A girder is made of steel and or iron, possibly iron, and they go into place in buildings to make those buildings safe and secure. They can be the supports. If the foundations have to go in first, and it usually consists of the girders going deep into the ground. I know of one particular construction in Hertfordshire called the Hatfield Galleria, and it has foundations going down 600 feet because it's built on top of a motorway. It's built on top of the A1 motorway, and so you have this motorway which goes underneath the shopping centre. So a crane would have been used to put into place the steel girders or the iron girders into the foundations. You can also find steel girders above doors to make sure that the doors are solid and that they will support the weight of the building.
Okay. Now have you made any sacrifices to do this job? Please read.
Yeah, it's one big one. Physical health. The wear and tear to the body is enormous. I've fallen 3 times. My father fell 2 stories, lost a finger and broke his ankles. He needed 2 new knees when he retired.
Aha. How high is a story?
Well, I think it's different for Britain and America. So if we start right on the ground floor. So the ground floor in Britain is the first floor in American English. So for us, if we say the 10-story building, it would actually be an extra floor, I think, compared to how many floors there are.
Okay.
Well, so like a 10-story building is like 9 floors. If I'm right, or is it 11 floors? I'm confused now. But I know in America, so 10 stories is 10 floors, because they count the ground floor as the first story, I believe. Whereas we don't. We count the first floor as the ground floor. So for us, it's 9 stories if it's 10 floors, but for America, it's 10 stories. I think that's correct. Is that correct, Lou, or have I made a mistake there?
I think of a story as being the distance from the floor to the ceiling in a given building. That's why I think of it. Now, what does it mean if someone retires?
It means they've stopped working.
Okay. Now we have what would you like to do next? Please read.
I'd like to help put up a really important building like my great-grandfather did. And I'd like to travel. I'd like to see some of the world's tallest buildings, such as the Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur, and one of the world's tallest hotels, the Burj Al Arab in Dubai. I'd love to see that.
Very good, and now we have what advice would you give to someone who wanted to do your job? Go right ahead.
Well, you need to be strong, really strong. You have to be okay with height. It usually takes about a year to get used to it. Many guys who look strong and want to earn good money try it once, but then give up. It's just too frightening.
If something is frightening, what's that mean?
Oh, that's really, really scary.
Really scary. Okay, very good. Now we have some questions here. What is a hurricane hunter?
A hurricane hunter is somebody who follows the hurricanes around the country, especially in America, in North America. They tend to have a lot of hurricanes there, so you will find a lot of people who want to chase them because they're doing documentaries about them, they're trying to do research on them, so they follow them around.
Yeah. What is a cowboy in the sky?
I think this is a construction worker who works at height.
Which of the jobs do you find most interesting?
The hurricane hunter.
Aha. Would you like to do either of these jobs?
Yeah, actually, I would. I think both of them are quite interesting, but preferably, I think the hurricane hunter, because I am a little bit frightened of heights, but I get over it. I get over the fear of heights. But the hurricane, I like the idea of that. I could race around in my car.
Okay, very good. Who came across his job in a newspaper?
That's a good question. I think it was
Look it up.
the hurricane hunter.
I think it was as well. Let me find it.
There it is. Came across an ad in the newspaper for a meteorologist.
Yeah, to work in Florida. Very interesting. So is the hurricane hunter, whose job is handed down from father to son.
Oh, well, that's the cowboy in the sky.
Uh-huh. Who finds it exciting to end up in different cities.
I think it's possibly the hurricane hunter, but I could be wrong.
It is.
Uh-huh.
Who helped to put up a really important building?
The iron worker, the cowboy in the sky.
Who has to get on well with the people he works with?
The iron worker, the cowboy in the sky.
And who takes off at a moment's notice?
The hurricane chaser.
Who was cut off from his family?
The iron worker.
You're sure about that?
No, I'm not. Is it the other one?
I believe it is. I'm so far away from my family.
Yes.
They all live in the UK. My wife's with me, of course. Her family is also in the UK, so we're pretty cut off from them all over here. That is the hurricane hunter. Who can't fall out with the people he works with?
The cowboy in the sky.
Right, they depend on each other. Who hasn't come up with an experiment for space yet?
This is this meteorologist, the hurricane hunter.
Right. Who often give up, should be gives up, after trying the job once?
The people who try to become cowboys in the sky, it's too dangerous for them.
Right, the height, the wear and tear on the body, right? The words underlined in exercise 4 are all phrasal verbs. Match them with a verb or expression from the box below. So, came across. What do you think came across matches up with?
Came across? Where does it say that?
Came across matches up with which?
Okay. Found by chance.
Found by chance is perfect. Handed down matches up with?
Passed from one generation to another.
Passed from one generation to another. End up matches up with?
Is that arrive unexpectedly?
Sounds good to me. Put up matches up with?
Build, construct.
Build and construct. Got on well with matches up with?
Have a good relationship with.
Good relationship with. Takes off matches up with?
Leaves on a plane.
And cut off from matches up with?
Separated from.
And fall out with matches up with?
Argue and no longer be friends with.
Come up with matches up with?
Thought of an idea for something.
And give up matches up with?
Stop a job or stop a habit.
Perfect. Once again, my name is Lou. We're working in the New Headway book. I'll see you next time.